ought to be with some type of dignity at all times. And some people retire earlier for different reasons of life. You know, it just may not be, I just don't want to work anymore. But I just want to ask this. Is there some way to tier this also? That, let's say, from 55 to 62, you can have various plans of how much they pay towards their health care. I'd be much more comfortable with that. You know, you'd go at 55, you're going to pay more than if you went at 56, 57, 58, 59. But you could kind of tier that in, and still they would have to pay part of that cost for going early. I'd be much more comfortable with a situation like that.
Mr. Chairman, since the Chairman used his retirement, I'll use mine. I retired early as well. And as a union representative, I retired and I had to pay 5% up to age 62, which is retirement age. So it would cost me 35% of the cost of my medical insurance in order to retire at that time. And each year, a lot, 5% was reduced. Unfortunately, what happened was they went back and they said, and they changed the plan to where if you didn't have 20 years in, and I retired with 18, you had to pay 85%, and that was across the board. So it's one of those things where things change, but when you end up with a two-tier system, you end up losing a lot of people, you know, and it just doesn't make me working next to you feel good, you know. And so we're trying to say phase it in some kind of way. Even if you say, hey, if you do it 10, you have to pay 10% up to age 65. You know, I can understand that, which means that a person retiring at 55 will end up paying 100%, but a person retiring at 58 would end up paying maybe 80%. You know, up until that age. But let's make them feel like they're getting something. And I mean, and that helps that helps us as an organization as well.
Let me maybe propose this and see where you want to go. And again,
do that. Let's see what
oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
No, I wasn't sure if I wanted to say anything. Because I think we could beat this issue to death. And I think it's not uncommon to go to companies and organizations in today's climate and find that at a certain given point in time, new employees get less benefits than employees that have been here. And I know the same thing happened in our company with respect to how you're able to retire as well as who's going to pay it. But I think this whole issue is involved around managing health care costs. And someone has to pay it if they're going to exist. And it's a question as to whether TRIMET bears it or certain employees tend to bear some of it. So I tend to sympathize with the issues being raised. I'm not like opposed to what it is that you're proposing, because that's the climate that we live in today because of healthcare costs and what has happened.
Let me propose this. I'll introduce by saying that a week ago last Saturday, because of one of my volunteer positions, really I heard an extensive presentation and conversation with Ron White, and I think most of you know that Ron's proposing a very comprehensive health care proposal. And whether or not that actually makes it or not, I think his reading is that the mood in the Congress and certainly within the administration is we've got to find a way to get to universal care in some regard. My guess is that if that happens, and I think there will be something that will be moving, it is going to obliterate the need for this issue, because you're really talking then about health care. And I think we all kind of would like to see that. Number two, and this is the proposal, this issue, understand, will not become important for at least 10 years. That is, let's take somebody who is age 52 today that we hire. They have, in fact, must work 10 years before they are eligible for the health care benefit, at which point they could retire at 62 and potentially face this. I might propose that this be something that we bring back to you as a board as we start marching forward and see whether or not something can be done. I think that at any stage, the ability to give something more is there. The ability to take something away is not. So I would still recommend, and so obviously to you as a board, that we would stay with this proposal, which would be the 100% covered by the individual. But know that nobody's going to face that. We're not hiring anybody in any event, but if we did, it is a 10-year period before it becomes, it would have any effect at all. If it's a younger person, it's many more years than that.
Okay, further discussion? Call for the motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. And opposed? 2. Right, the resolution is approved.
Okay, we will, I hear the issues, and we'll be monitoring this closely and kind of come back and discuss it, even though you've adopted the resolution as provided. Next.
All right. Next, 090324, designating authority to the general manager for the line of credit that we heard about in the finance report.
I would just very briefly say this allows us to be able to enter into a line of credit because it can be renewed at the discretion of both us, but at the discretion of the financial institution. That could go past 1 year. It is why it's required. If it's less than 1 year, board action is not taken, but because it could go beyond that, it is. This provides for our ability to be able to do interim financing, really cash flow liquidity reasons, as Beth outlined. I won't add any more than that because I think Beth did an excellent job of explaining that. I would urge your approval.
Motion. Second. Discussion.
Did we get a good interest rate from Wells Fargo?
Don't look at me.
On for 5 years. It actually is a very attractive rate. Right now, below 2%. Right, below 2%. It would be below 2%.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Resolution 090325, authorizing an IGA with the City of Portland.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. You have a number of these different intergovernmental agreements that come forward to you. Our procedures are that you must, in fact, approve all intergovernmental agreements. In this case, it's with the City of Portland, and what we do is we really enter into an agreement that provides for a single point of focus to be able to help, in fact, in this case, do the final design work on the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail project. What it does is it really allows us to be more efficient by working together and having, in this case, the City of Portland be right there with us as we are providing the design services, many of which are affected by direct city requirements of everything from building permits to setbacks and so on.
Move adoption.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Resolution 090326, authorizing an IGA with the City of Milwaukee.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. Maybe some of you will recall back that as we have been discussing with Milwaukee for a number of years, maybe highlighted by the specifics around the Portland to Milwaukee Light Rail project, but they would like in their downtown area to be able to have less impact on buses. If you remember where their city hall is, we essentially our bus service rings it as a place for an important transfer. This effort allows us to be able to utilize certain dollars to be able to really restructure a bit of that flow. We think that makes good sense. Although separate from this, I would indicate that when we apply to the Oregon Transportation Commission for stimulus dollars, we put in place a park and ride facility at the Southgate lot. That's a little bit north of downtown, and the Oregon Transportation Commission approved $3.5 million. So I think the combination of those two things really allow us to be able to help address some of the concerns that the City of Milwaukee has had about how we are actually able to operate. That park and ride will be a very important step as we are building up to the opening of the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail alignment. It will then ultimately be not necessary and will become a south lift facility for our lift vehicles at that location.